On today's show, all signs point to Darius Garland making his season debut tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. We'll talk about the latest there, what to expect from Garland, and why I think if that happens, tonight is actually the start of Cavs season. We'll discuss all that and so much more on this Wednesday edition of Locked On Cavs.
You are Locked On Cavs, your daily Cleveland Cavaliers podcast.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? My name's Danny Cunningham, and I cover the Cleveland Cavaliers over at my Substack, The Inside Shot. And thank you for making this edition of Locked On Cavs your first listen. And thank you to those of you everydayers that make Locked On Cavs your first listen every single day. You can find the podcast anywhere you get them. That means Apple, that means Spotify, that means anywhere else. And we are on YouTube as well. So if you're watching right now, do us a favor as we get started. Hit that thumbs up button for us. Click subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. A proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. In today's episode, brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you will get $300 in bonus bets to use all across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started today. It seems as if Darius Garland is going to make his season debut for the Cavaliers on Wednesday against the Philadelphia 76ers. The news was first reported by ESPN on Tuesday afternoon that Garland would be upgraded on the injury report and that he could be making his season debut as soon as Wednesday. Now, Kenny Atkinson was speaking with us media members about the same time this report from ESPN came out, and he didn't necessarily want to, fully commit to the idea, but he essentially said all the Cavs were waiting for was the final green light, that he had essentially completed his ramp-up period, and it is time to watch Darius Garland play basketball. Kenny Atkinson basically said that without actually saying that. And this is obviously, I think, one of the more exciting things of the season so far for Cavs fans, because now we can start to get a glimpse of what this team is supposed to be. And that's why I said in the open, the Cavs season actually starts tonight if Darius Garland does play. Now, he is listed as questionable on the injury report as of Tuesday night, provided that he wakes up and doesn't have any issues, because he did practice in full with the team on Tuesday, and they didn't scrimmage or have the world's most difficult practice on Tuesday. But Darius Garland did go through everything, which is not some new thing. He's been practicing. He has been scrimmaging both when the Cavs have done it and when he's been with the Cavs G League affiliate, the Cleveland Charge, a couple of times to get those extra reps in. So him going through a full practice is nothing interesting. Like, that is something new, I should say. It is interesting. It's not something new. So provided that he responds the way the team expects him to respond from that, Darius Garland, I imagine, will be playing tonight against the Philadelphia 76ers. And this means Garland will only have missed 7 games to start the year, which I think is kind of on the low end. And Kenny Atkinson didn't want to, and not on Tuesday, but in previous media availabilities, didn't want to dive too deep into like Garland being ahead of schedule or anything like that. But this is certainly in the time frame of Garland returning to play. So if we think all the way back to the day that the Cavs announced that Darius Garland had surgery, they said 4 to 5 months would be the time frame. And I believe that was on June 9th. And, well, we can look at a calendar, and today is November 5th, which puts this at just under 5 months since the surgery date that he will be, presuming he plays tonight, back on the floor for the Cavaliers. And I think that is obviously a very good sign. I do wonder if he could have played sooner if he needed to, but there was no need to try and rush him back just from seeing what he's been doing pregame and stuff like that. He has looked to me really since the start of the season like somebody who's ready to play basketball. So when I was in New York for the first week of the season, the Cavs had a practice the day in between the Knicks and the Nets game. And then they had a shoot around the day of the Nets game as well. And I was not in for both of those. Like, you get let in at the end and you can kind of see some things. You basically can see extra work that guys are doing. And Darius Garland played in a 3-on-3 stay ready game. I do not remember if this was the practice date or the shoot around. I believe it was shoot around before the team played the Nets. And it was him. DeAndre Hunter played in that game. They were on opposite teams. If you remember, Hunter missed the first 2 games of the season because of a knee contusion. Thomas Bryant played in it. Luke Travers played in it. Naquan Tomlin played in it. And an assistant coach for the Cavs, Luke Webb, played in it. And Darius, to me, at that point, and this is just watching 3-on-3 in a Division III college gym. So it is obviously not playing in an NBA game, but he looked to me like somebody that was ready to be playing in an NBA game. And I've seen nothing since. And again, I'm not at behind the scenes stuff. Like I don't know what goes on every single detail of practice. I don't get to watch every single detail of what happens at shoot around, but every glimpse of Darius Garland that I have seen since the start of the season looks like somebody who is ready. And I think that is a very, very good sign, because I do think the Cavs have missed Garland a lot to start this season, particularly, obviously, on the offensive end of the floor, because the Cavs going into play on Tuesday, and I've not looked this up since what games happen on Tuesday night, and I'm recording this before all of them happen, because I'm not going to stay up until, after the 11 o'clock Eastern time game finishes to record this podcast. I will be in bed by the time we know what happens in that game. But the Cavs have the 26th offense in basketball, which is obviously not nearly good enough. And I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday's podcast, because that is one of the things that I think it is unfair to judge what that looks like without Darius Garland. And the fact that they've had other guys in and out of the lineup, I think makes it really hard for them to find an offensive rhythm too. But I do believe that Garland is obviously the biggest missing piece of that, with the exception of when Donovan Mitchell did not play against the Raptors. Like, he would be the biggest missing piece in that game too. But I look at this and just say, Darius is going to be somebody that I think helps solve a lot of their offensive problems. And this isn't going to be a thing that happens overnight. Now, when I say that I think the season for the Cavs really truly does start on Wednesday if Darius Garland plays, that doesn't mean that nothing in the first 7 games matters, because as I talked about on yesterday's podcast, there are some things that I think are a little bit concerning. And I don't think that Darius Garland fixes all of those. Like, the Cavs have not been a good enough rebounding team. They're 20th in rebounding rate entering Tuesday. Darius Garland probably not going to be a big help there. Like, that is not what Darius Garland does best. Maybe he can help a little bit, but if you're counting on Darius Garland to turn a team into an elite rebounding team, you're looking in the wrong direction. And I don't think the Cavs are doing that, but I'm just saying, like, he doesn't solve all of their issues. But I do think on the offensive end of the floor, there are things that he's going to be able to do that will help this Cavs team immensely. And it's not just what he's going to be able to do, because I think a big part of the problem for the Cavs so far this year, and why I'm not concerned about really anything that's happened on the offensive end, is Garland's absence not only takes away the talent that Darius is, which is, in my opinion, a borderline all-NBA guard, certainly an all-star guard. Not only does it take that away, but it pushes other guys into bigger roles than what they should be in. Like Sam Merrill, I think, and I know he has missed the past couple of games with that hip contusion. I think he's gotten off to a great start to the season, but he's also been in a little bit of an outsized role, right? Like, he has in a couple of games played 30 plus minutes. I don't know that that's the best role for Sam Merrill. I think he can do it when called upon, but are you getting the most out of Sam if that's the role that he's in? Now, with Darius back, and again, I wouldn't expect this to look perfect on night one. And I also wouldn't expect Darius Garland to play like the full minutes on night one either. I would imagine that he's going to be somewhere around 25 minutes. I don't think that they want to push it. I think that they want to ease him back in, because again, it is still early in the season. Like, it is November 5th as we're talking about this right now, as we're talking about him making his season debut. So it's not as if he's going to play 10 minutes in this game, but he's also probably not going to play 30 or 35 minutes. And that is the smart way to handle things. But having Darius Garland out there pushes so many other guys into their ideal roles. And I think Sam is part of that. Like, how much more effective would Sam be if he's playing 22 minutes a night as opposed to 30 minutes a night? I think it could be something that helps him out on the defensive end of the floor. I think it could be something that the Cavs want to apply more ball pressure this year. I think having those guys back in their regular roles could be something that improves that area for the Cavs. So it's not just the offense. And there are things, obviously, that I think Darius will help out with offensively quite a bit. And I'm going to talk about those coming up in just a minute. But I think that we will see, again, not on night one, because Darius needs to get up to speed. And I don't think that we should have oversized expectations for him in his season debut if he does make it on Wednesday against Philadelphia. But I think that a lot of other things will start to fall in line. I think everybody that is sort of below him on the pecking chart will look a little bit better. I even think one guy that's above him in Evan Mobley will look much better when Darius Garland's back, because it's going to slide other guys into the roles that will make Evan better. And I think that that is something that is certainly worth talking about. But the Cavs offensively have not been good enough. Darius doesn't fix all of it, but I do think Darius fixes a lot of it. And Kenny Atkinson said something on Tuesday about Darius Garland that really caught my ear. I'll tell you what that was. I'll tell you why it's true, and I'll tell you how that affects the Cavs next right here on Locked on Cavs. But first, today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA season is back. Oh, and it is great right now. I mean, we had a great game on Tuesday night. It is 10:45 at night Tuesday, so I just got done watching Chicago and Philly play because I like to watch the teams that the Cavs are playing before they come to Cleveland or before the Cavs go there, just to kind of know what's going on. And I watched a good chunk of that Chicago game against the Sixers, and man, what a comeback by the Bulls. So the NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action because you could have bet when the Bulls were down by 24 points on Tuesday, you said, you know what? I don't believe in the Sixers. Bulls are going to come back and win this game. I wish I would have looked at what the odds were because I'm sure you could have gotten it for great value with FanDuel. And they came back and they won that game because Nikola Vucevic hit a huge three with just under 4 seconds left in regulation to win the game. So even if you missed the start of the game, like maybe I didn't see tip off of that game, but I saw a lot of it. Or maybe you just want to ride the hot hand because the Bulls caught fire in this one. FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks, like again, Chicago had. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team is the one that's making that late push. So right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That is $300 in bonus bets when that first $5 bet wins. Head to FanDuel.com. That is FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Today's show is also brought to you by rejuvenate. Let's be real. Making excuses doesn't solve anything. We've all heard them before. It's just stress. I'm tired, or it happens to everyone sometimes. But when it comes to performance, sometimes your body just needs a little bit of extra support. And that is where rejuvenate comes in. Rejuvenate.com offers fast-acting doctor-prescribed treatments for ED designed to help you stop making excuses and start making moves. Rejuvenate makes it easy to get started. You just connect with a board-certified doctor 100% online. No awkward waiting rooms, no in-person appointments. And if prescribed, your treatment ships discreetly straight to your door. Process fast, simple, and private. It's all handled by real doctors. It's about confidence, connection, and getting back to the moments that matter. So visit Rugiet.com. That is RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA to get 15% off your first order. Again, Rugiet.com, RUGIET.com/LockedOnNBA. Do not forget that promo code. Again, Locked On NBA, so that they know we sent you and so that you get 15% off your first order. Rugiet, stop making excuses and start making moves. So one of the things that Kenny Atkinson said about the impending return of Darius Garland, and really where the Cavs have missed Garland the most, because it's very obvious to anyone that knows anything about the Cavs or basketball that the Cavs missed Darius Garland on the offensive end of the floor primarily. But the specific area where they miss him offensively, I think is really interesting to dive into. Because we can look at numbers and we can say, well, the Cavs have not been as good of a three-point shooting team this year as they were last year. And it is a very small sample size because it's 7 games, but they have not been as good of a three-point shooting team so far this year as they were last year, or even as I think their shot diet would probably say that they should be so far this year. And does Darius Garland help that? Yes, Darius is a fantastic shooter. I would argue one of the best three-point shooters in all of basketball. And adding one of those guys to the floor will make a team better in that area naturally, provided that he plays to the level that he can get to on that specific topic. But the area that Kenny Atkinson brought up, and this is the thing that I think I most agreed with what he said, is that he's an advantage creator. And what he meant by that and what an advantage creator is somebody, it is what it sounds like, right? It is somebody that can create an advantage. And right now, I think part of the issue with the Cavs offense is obviously that. Like if you look at guys that they have right now that can by themselves create an advantage, who is there? Donovan Mitchell, obviously, one of the best in basketball at being an advantage creator. He can beat so many guys off the dribble. He can do so many things to create an advantage for himself, which in turn creates an advantage for the rest of the guys on the floor. Evan Mobley, I'm not so sure about that. I don't know that Evan is an advantage creator. I think Evan is maybe an advantage finisher. Like when he has that advantage, he's very good at finishing the play. but I don't know that he's great at creating that advantage. I think Lonzo Ball is an advantage creator, but it looks a little bit different than anybody else on the roster because he uses pace and he uses, I think, just a supreme court vision to create that advantage more so for his teammates. Darius Garland is, at his best, one of the best advantage creators, not only for himself, but more importantly, for the rest of the floor in the NBA. And I think that is the area where the Cavs have missed Darius the most. We've talked about how they're not getting downhill frequently enough, about how they're not getting to the rim nearly as many times as they need to. And that, I think, is the primary reason why this offense has, for big chunks of this season so far, which, yes, very small sample size, has looked stuck in mud. That's why they're 26th in offense, because they're not able to get the shots they want to get. Darius Garland is somebody that can help get them back to that area. And I think that Evan Mobley is, and so many things tie back to Evan Mobley when it comes with this. Because as I mentioned yesterday, like his volume of shots at the rim is down. He is not taking his shot distribution is not even close to what it was last year. He's, I believe, like 35%. I said it what I deleted the number, unfortunately. Like 35% of his shots are coming at the rim, which last year it was 60-ish%. And that is a huge difference and a big part of the reason why he has not been as efficient offensively, despite the fact that his counting stats don't look bad, but we're kind of sitting here thinking they should be better. Darius Garland can help that situation, whether it's because Darius is playing with Evan, which, you know, when Darius and Evan are both in the starting lineup, they're both on the floor at the same time for several minutes a game. That helps Evan a lot because he's not playing at that point with just one advantage creator, but with two advantage creators in both Darius and Donovan. But it also means that if Kenny Atkinson, and I don't know what he's going to do here, and this is one of the things that I am most interested in seeing with a Darius Garland return. But if Kenny Atkinson chooses to go back to what the rotations were last year, where Donovan Mitchell exits with Evan Mobley, as opposed to with Jarrett Allen, who he has exited with so far in all the games that those guys have played together. If they keep that rotation, or if Donovan Mitchell exits with Evan Mobley instead, and Jarrett Allen stays on the floor with Darius Garland, because I think that pairing those minutes again will give Evan an advantage creator on the floor with him at all times. And right now, he's not playing all of his minutes with an advantage creator. And I think that, you know, the hope was that he would be able to be a little bit more of an advantage creator. And I don't want to sit here and say that he can't be, because I don't necessarily know that we know that to be true. But through the first 7 games that he's played so far this season, there have not been enough moments where it's like, yes, Evan created that advantage for himself or his teammates. They do exist. It's not like he hasn't been able to do it at all. I just don't know that he's been able to do it frequently enough, or as frequently as he needs to, for the offense to be super successful running through him. So I think pairing him with an advantage creator, whether it is Darius, whether it is Donovan, is something that's going to boost his game. And I think you're going to then start to see the shot quality for the Cavs really start to tick up to where it was last year. And I just think it's important to note how good the Cavs have been with Darius Garland on the floor versus with Darius Garland off the floor. Like, I do think, and I really mean this, because I've talked about how just with where the Cavs are at offensively right now, it is not something that I think is worth freaking out over. Should they be 26th? Probably not. Like, that is low. That's extreme. The teams below them are all teams that are just a mess right now. And then you have the Cavs, who are championship contenders. And obviously there is a huge caveat there because of the injuries. But I do think that it's important to denote just like how good they have been in the past with Darius Garland on the floor versus Darius Garland being off the floor. And last year is a good one to look at because Darius played 75 games. He was very healthy, and like he, you know, could theoretically, I guess, reach that number this year if he plays every single game the rest of the way, which I don't necessarily know that I would expect to happen. But the Cavs last year offensively were in the 97th percentile with Darius Garland on the floor. That's a really, really good place to be. No wonder they had one of the best offenses in NBA history. And yes, that roster, not exactly the same last year as it is this year, but last year they were in the 85th percentile when he was not on the floor in terms of offense. Now, they were better defensively when he was off the floor than when he was on the floor, but offensively, they were significantly worse. Like from 97th to 85th percentile, like, yes, you will take either one of those. Those are both very, very good. Scoring 120 points per 100 possessions with Darius Garland off the floor is a really, really healthy place to be. And that has obviously not been where the Cavs have been so far this year at all. But they were scoring 124 points with Darius Garland on the floor. That is the best offense in NBA history. And expecting the Cavs to instantly get back to that best offense in NBA history tonight, that's unfair. But I do think that now is when we can start to say, okay, this is when, and maybe tonight is not even the night to do it. Maybe it's like 3, 4, 5 games down the road when you should start to see progress and you should see Darius get back up to full speed and not maybe be on a minutes restriction and find a comfort level, because it's not fair to sit here and say, yeah, we expect the team as a whole to look great night one and don't get a grace period, which I have certainly given them. And I think a lot of people have given them. Some people haven't, but I think a lot of people have said, if they don't need to be a championship team right now, this is going to be a process. I think we have to look at it with Darius Garland the same way. There's going to be a period where maybe it doesn't look great. Maybe it does look great tonight. I don't know. I can't tell the future. But I do think that tonight is the night where we can pinpoint and say, okay, let's almost forget about the first 7 games that happened. Yes, there are things that are mildly concerning that Darius Garland doesn't necessarily fix. But November 5th to me, and I talked about this last year when the Cavs traded for DeAndre Hunter. And I talked about them. This was more specific with the defensive side of the basketball. And it was like almost tracking who they were as a defense after they acquired Hunter. And this year, I think it's going to be, when we look at their offensive numbers, at least until we get a couple of months into the season and the sample size stops being small. But when we look at their offensive numbers, at least the way I track them, for me, it's going to be, well, the Cavs rank, whatever in offense starting on November 5th, because this team is so different with Darius Garland on the floor versus Darius Garland off the floor. And tonight is the night that we should look at and say, yes, this is when the season actually starts for the Cavs. It doesn't mean they need to look like a championship team on Wednesday night, but now I think is when the process of really starting to get this team going and starting to see what they can look like. This is when I think it really does begin for them. Now, tonight is also special because it's throwback night. The Cavs are wearing their navy blue uniforms from the first LeBron era. I want to talk about those, how great I think it's going to be, and so much more next right here on Locked On Cavs. But first, today's show brought to you by Gusto. Let's be real. No one starts a business for the joy of calculating tax withholdings, managing payroll spreadsheets, or anything like that. I know I certainly did not start a business to do that, but that's where Gusto comes in, to take the stress out of payroll, benefits, and HR so you can focus on running your business and supporting your team. Gusto is the all-in-one remote-friendly payroll and HR platform that makes managing your team simple, transparent, and fast. Whether you're hiring, onboarding, or paying employees, Gusto helps you do it all from one place without all the hassle or the hidden fees, because as we know, nobody likes hidden fees. Unlimited payroll runs for one monthly price, which means no surprise charges at the end of the month. Gusto's automated tools like offer letters, onboarding materials, and direct deposits can save you hours each and every week. And knowing that you can reach certified HR experts anytime gives you a real peace of mind. So try Gusto today at gusto.com/lockedonnba to get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. That is gusto.com/lockedonnba and get 3 months free when you run your first payroll. Again, 3 months free of payroll at gusto.com/lockedonnba. One more time for you. Gusto.com, gusto.com/lockedonnba. So maybe it just means that I'm getting old. I sit here at 32 years of age, and I think a lot of you listening and watching on YouTube. And if you are watching on YouTube, hit that thumbs up button for us. And if you are listening, make sure you're subscribed, Apple, Spotify, anywhere else. But I think like a lot of you watching and listening, I really fell in love with basketball during the first LeBron era. I don't think that's a secret. I think if you listen to this podcast, or if you just see, hey, looks like a guy in his early 30s. If you want to be nice, it looks like a guy in his late 20s. Thank you very much. I think a lot of you probably have that in common. And I don't think that is like some secret of mine. And to see the Cavs back in these uniforms on Wednesday night, I think is going to be really cool. I think it's going to be really special. The Cavs earlier on Tuesday tweeted out a photo of the floor because, of course, they have a floor to go with it. And that's how every NBA team does it right now. And this is one of the things that I absolutely love when teams really go all into the retro look or the classic edition and what they call it, but they are throwback uniforms. And to me, this was the best era in terms of looks in Cavs history. I loved everything about the white jerseys. I loved everything about the wine color jerseys. When they introduced these navy jerseys, because they didn't have them for the first couple of years of that era. I think they began in 06, 07, or maybe 05, 06. And they were instantly, I thought, the best jerseys in basketball. Now, like, I know that's not like objectively speaking, and you know, there could be a Celtics fan in the comments, like, you're out of your mind. And sure, like, you know, the Celtics have a great look, the Lakers have a great look, all those historic franchises. But as far as an alternate look, it was, to me, the thing that I love the most. Like, when I think of the Cavs from that era, I think of these jerseys. And I think of some of my fondest memories as a basketball fan watching this team in this jerseys. And to see them bring these back, one, does make me feel old, because it's like, hey, this is the first time where it's the uniforms that this team wore when you were a kid. They're classic edition jerseys now. This is the first time that's ever happened. And I think that is certainly a cool thing. It does make me feel old, but I'm really excited to see what this looks like. I'm really excited to see what the whole environment is. And by that, I mean, like, yes, the fans will be great because the fans are always great in Cleveland, but the Cavs also organizationally, they don't do anything halfway, right? So when they have the throwback court that fits the jerseys, that's going all unknown. I would imagine they're going to have a lot of production elements that resemble what life was like back in 2005, 2006, 2007. I imagine that's what this is going to be. And I'm super excited to see it. This is one of the games that I've had circled for quite some time, not because they're playing Philadelphia, although the Sixers certainly are an interesting team, even though they lost to the Bulls on Tuesday night and will probably be without Joel Embiid on Wednesday against the Cavs. But I've circled this game because I can't wait to see what this looks like. And I am somebody, and I don't know if I'm in the minority here, but I really do enjoy the current aesthetic of the Cavs. I think the black looks good, even though I don't know that they necessarily needed black in the color palette. I liked navy a lot. I think the gold looks good. I don't love the wine jerseys. I like the white ones. I like the black ones the best. But overall, I think they have a clean, sharp look. But if the team ever does change identities again, and I think they've changed identities a few too many times in my life. Like, I was born in the 90s and they were the light blue and black. And then they kind of like incorporated orange a little bit more. And then they went to the wine and gold. And then they changed identities again. And they went to more of like a red and yellow that wasn't really gold. It was more yellow. And then they had whatever they had for the last LeBron year. And then leading into the Donovan Mitchell era, which I thought none of those jerseys look good. I think that might be the worst looking franchise history. And then leading into what they have now, like, they've just changed so many times throughout the course of their history. And that's not even counting before I was really alive, where they were blue and orange. Like, it's just, they have had organizationally, I think, a bit of an identity crisis over the 60 years they've been around. So if they ever change again, which I hope they don't do because I like the look they have now, this is the era I really hope they go back to. And I think it's going to be really cool to see it on the floor. I think we've been dreaming of this for a long, long time. I think in, maybe a perfect world, this would have lined up with either a second LeBron return, which I guess you can never rule out. I wouldn't bet on it, but I guess you can never rule it out. Or LeBron retiring, which also, I guess I wouldn't bet on that ever happening either at this point. But overall, I'm super excited to see what this looks like. I think it's going to be a great thing. I think it's going to be a really, really cool environment. And I have a lot of good memories of watching this organization in these jerseys. And I can't wait to kind of see what they do this time around wearing the navy blue jerseys for the Cavs. So that's going to do it for today's edition of Locked on Cavs. Of course, I will be back first thing tomorrow morning talking about whatever happens in the Cavs and the Sixers game on Wednesday night. Whether Darius Garland plays or doesn't, we will have to wait and see, but I would anticipate him being on the floor for the Cavs and seeing what that looks like for Cleveland. So I will be back tomorrow, but make sure you're subscribed right here, wherever you're listening. I don't know where you're listening. It could be Apple, it could be Spotify, it could be anywhere else, but make sure you hit subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that thumbs up button as well, and click the notification bell so you don't miss the latest Locked On Cavs content. And I will be back tomorrow morning talking more about the Cleveland Cavaliers.